Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
I suck, you suck, I suck at Call of Duty. You suck.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and this week I'm joined by...
Just Patrick Carey.
Just the two of us. You can contact us on email at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. Okay, the whole situation with the Vive and the Oculus, it's been a bit rocky, I think, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
Launch-wise. We got updates today on our Oculus shipments. There's been component shortages. Do you know what those component shortages are?
No, no one knows what the component shortages are yet.
I hope it's not the box, whatever they need to make the box with.
The cardboard box.
The cardboard box.
Yeah, just put it in like a bag. Just stick all those bits in a bag and just send it over. I don't care about them. I don't give a fuck about that box, Palmer. So just a little Tesco's bag full of stuff is fine.
Yeah.
No one knows, unfortunately, and it's pretty frustrating. It's just a real shame. I mean, it's after sort of 3 years and a huge build-up to have both of the big contenders, kind of stutter on launch is a real shame.
I mean, the thing that gets me is that, you know, they've been very much like following the kind of Apple way of doing things, and Apple do this stuff.
Well, the Apple way of marketing, really, which, if let's be fair, is really nonsense information. Isn't it? It's not information. It's marketing. The appearance that a company decides to create for themselves is not really relevant. So far, they said for ages, we would rather under-promise and over-deliver, and that they didn't want to tell us when the final consumer Rift was going to be out because they didn't want to tell us and then not be able to ship it at that time. And that's unfortunately exactly what's happened. That's the reason that they for years they were like, no comment, until they were like, yeah, we know we're going to ship it. And unfortunately, it still didn't work. And the Vive problem, the main problem with the Vive shipping was that they used a credit card company, Digital River, who had had problems in the past with product launches. One of the Microsoft launches, I can't remember what product it was, but essentially what happened was there was just mass fraud checks on the cards. And so, because it was a high value product,
item.
it was automatically cancelled by a lot of banks because they wanted to contact their customers first to check that it was a legitimate purchase. Which I got a little message from my bank asking if it was a genuine purchase.
Do you really want to spend this much?
Yeah, and the problem is that the Digital River, instead of waiting sort of 24 hours and then attempting to charge those same cards, they recharged them again a minute later. So if people had missed the opportunity to tell the bank that the transactions go through, they had missed their place. So the HTC then came out quite quickly and said, if you contact us, we will submit your order and you won't lose your place. So you'll still get your same place, which is something I had to do. So I've been told I'm going to get an April shipping because I had the April shipping originally. But unfortunately, both products have suffered setbacks at launch, which is a real shame.
Yeah, I saw a news story. Eurogamer put one up tonight, actually, just saying about how both headsets or both companies making the headsets are having trouble. Apparently, the guy put out something about the Vive saying like they're planning to get everyone who was promised April is going to get shipped in April, and then someone challenged that and said good luck, and he went challenge accepted. So you know, I really hope it all works out. The thing for me personally is that the longer this all goes on, the more I'm kind of thinking about what I've ordered and like, do I still want this, and maybe I should get the other one. I'm not in any rush. It's not like I need a headset now, but I'm sort of like, there's so many like reviews and things coming out and people slowly getting hold of these systems, and I'm sort of just questioning my decision, because I still think for me the Oculus makes the most sense, because I feel like I can buy it, it's cheaper, and I can use it to the full. But at the same time, I'm sort of thinking, if I get the Vive, okay, I'll probably still be able to do all that stuff and a bit more than what I can do with the Oculus, but I won't be able to use it to the full, and it will frustrate me that I haven't got the space for it. You know?
I think whatever happens, like whatever headset people choose this year, in the first year of VR, I think it doesn't really matter. Like, you're going to have an awesome time, because at the end of the day, just because you bought a Vive doesn't mean you have to have a room. You could be sitting down using a Vive. You could be playing racing sims, flying sims, shoot 'em ups, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can still do seated experiences in a Vive. You don't need a whole room. It's just that it has the option to do that, and it has.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think at the moment it's hard to kind of compare the two to each other, and the reason is that one is the whole system, and the other one is the system minus the controllers. So really, you really need to wait. If you are on the fence about VR, I think people should probably wait until the touch controllers are out and both systems have been compared as complete systems. Because, I mean, like you said, it's cheaper, but actually isn't, because you're going to have to buy those motion controllers later on. Because, face it, you will want to buy those motion controllers. You're not going to want to play with a controller when those exist. Because games will be built for that, and it will be the method of input. So, price-wise, one's a bigger amount at the start. They are fairly similar when you weigh out the fact that you have to buy motion controllers later on. But there's plus sides to both headsets. So, from what I can see from looking at, as you know, I'm constantly on the Reddit still, as I have been for the last 3 years. You see all the posts, you see all the technical posts. I've seen photographs of inside of the headsets of both of them. Lots of reports that the optics are superior in the Oculus Rift.
Right.
Although it's not a huge amount, it does appear that text may be more readable in the Rift than in the Vive. The headset is said to be slightly more comfortable for the Rift than the Vive, so that's definitely a plus spot if you're going to be wearing it for hours at a time.
See, I couldn't tell you, because when I was in the Oculus, I was sat down, whereas when I was in the Vive, I was stood up. Right. So I don't know if I would have noticed much, because when you're stood up, I guess there's less sort of weight on your neck, maybe. I don't know. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, possibly, because you're not likely to be sort of slumped forward.
You're in a kind of more active posture.
Yes,
you know?
and as most of the Vive things are geared for being standing up and moving around, then perhaps that's less. And also there's a lot more kind of casual, kind of shorter experiences because of the physical exertion of playing those types of games. But developers know that you're not going to be jumping around for 3 hours. So they make the games to be 5 to 10 minutes, short play times. So the weight on it may be less important, I guess, in that case. But but if you are going to be playing things like racing simulators or flight simulators or something, it's looking like the Rift is the better one to go with for those optics and for comfort. I think other points that are probably worth mentioning, obviously, the the controllers are a huge deal. So if in like now in the next 6 months you want to have the most kind of complete VR experience, I think it is probably the Vive, isn't it? Unless, of course, you're like, I just want to play Project Cars or I just want to play Elite Dangerous. Then those controllers are less important because you already have the perfect controllers for those types of games.
Yeah.
So that's, it's very much down to the individual. I don't think there's really it's black and white. You should just definitely get this system or this system.
The thing I keep reading is if you've got the money and you've got the space, get the Vive. But the Oculus is perfectly good as well. Yeah. And I think that's totally true. Like I said, I think whatever you get, you're going to have an amazing thing, aren't you? Also, those touch controllers, I'm quite compelled by them and what they might offer. Yeah. In terms of the full gesticulation and stuff. Yeah, I mean, they're said to be more like kind of finger controllers, aren't they? They're meant to give you finger presence. They've got like triggers though, right? Yeah, but they're meant to be kind of super light, so almost like they kind of disappear in your hands. They're meant to represent your hands, but the Vive is meant to represent tools. It's guns, it's swords, it's frying pans, whatever. Yeah. So they definitely felt a lot lighter than I was expecting because they look so weird, so outlandish. I was thinking, they look a bit cumbersome, but they're actually really, really light. And they work definitely. But I think another thing that's sort of starting to become really, really, really kind of obvious now. I've started to use both. I've been using the Rift in both the Oculus Store and Steam VR. Is that really the main kind of competition those two have is not so much with hardware but with software. Yeah, it's really their store presence, and like that is the most important kind of thing. And both are great in different ways. So the Oculus Store, it's awesome. Like you're in this kind of cool living room, and you've got this kind of cool pixelated fire going on, and it's this kind of relaxing sounds, and cool. You've got a very kind of console style environment. So it's very kind of stripped down, very reductionist. You've got your games, your library, really easy to access. You can see the last kind of things that you've loaded, and you can get those really quickly. You've got the store is really easy to access with like featured things. You've got on the right, you've got your friends list, although I don't think that's fully functional at the moment. Yeah, I heard that. But it's a cool way of doing it. It's really kind of simple and it works. But then there's Steam, which is obviously the monster of PC game stores. And Steam VR is kind of it gives you obviously the big picture mode, and it gives you a virtual desktop, so you can use like the standard desktop Steam in VR if you like. Apparently that's going to work with Oculus as well. That's when it does. That's what I've been using on. Yeah. That's what I've been using on. So I've been trying both of them, the DK2. But it lets you play all of your sort of Steam games, your 2D non-VR Steam games on a big virtual screen. It lets you change the environment. You can customize the environment. So, unlike you can make it space or the Millennium Falcon or. Do the games take a hit on that though? There's a processor hit on it. Yeah, definitely. I haven't actually. I don't think actually. Have I tried it? No, I haven't tried it yet. But I have read that there is a hit. I love the idea of like being able to play something like Banner Saga though, like on a massive fucking screen. Well, do you know what I really love the idea of? I love the idea of multiplayer with that. I love the idea of playing a game that would generally be couch multiplayer, and just having like Rob Howard to the right of me, and Ian or Adam or whoever to the left, and just like playing like some silly couch co-op game in a virtual environment that we've chosen, and it's like you can look over and your mate's there and you can see it's like that's what I want. I think that's really what I miss about multiplayer. I miss that old school, actual social gaming where you're kind of sharing the same
space, I guess, which is a different thing. And that's something I'm really excited about VR doing, and that's exactly what it's going to do. But again, like, you think the social side of VR, like, what is the, Oculus are owned by Facebook, so you would think that they would have, that they're going to sort out social in an amazing way. Hopefully, that's what you'd expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope that they are fully behind it. I mean, they spent enough on it, but who knows? Tech's a funny old thing, and you see the fucking balls ups that Microsoft have made with stuff. It's like it is still. I'm still a little bit anxious about it all.
About what?
Just like, if Oculus is really going to have the legs long term, I
don't. To be fair, I don't really worry about that. My only, all I care about really is that VR exists, and like, for the last few years, the conversation's been steered towards, is it going to work this time, or obviously it's going to work this time, or people being less confident about that. But now look we're having a conversation about. We're having a conversation about which headset will win.
Yeah, it's pretty.
VR has the genie is out of the bottle now. Like, it's very much a case of you're not going back now, are you? You're not going to go back to the days of not having VR. Now it exists. So, like, I wouldn't really worry about Oculus. Like, Oculus, if they don't keep up the lead with hardware, will always be a VR studio. Like if Steam becomes by a huge margin if HTC Vive becomes the most popular hardware, and obviously that would mean that it would be the most popular store as well, I think Oculus would still make VR games. Like,
yeah, and I think games on Steam will continue to support Oculus, just on account of the fact that those developers, it's not a walled garden, and those developers will want to make their games work on the widest range of hardware.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, like, probably the simplest way to think about it is that, I'm buying a new display device, and, eventually I might get a different one, like, I know it's not the same, but you're essentially buying like a display device, like a monitor,
Well, it's more than that, though, isn't it? You're buying a platform. It's like buying a new console or something. It is a whole new platform. It is more disruptive than that. But the platforms are in a way shared, aren't they? It's less of a console thing because it's on PC.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just thinking about where I'm putting my cash. I know you've solved this problem by getting both, but I can't afford both right now.
But you don't need to worry about that, dude. I mean, there's going to be another headset in a year's time. There's going to be tons of headsets in a year's time. There won't just be 2 next year. There'll be 6 or whatever. Like, you're getting VR in the first year, and like, it's going to be awesome. It's not going to be the ultimate version of VR, because nothing is the ultimate version in its first kind of consumer cycle. Like, do you remember the first iPhone? It was cool, but it's rubbish compared to the iPhones that you have now. Yeah. So everything's going to get better. You can't really worry about that. I mean, if you want to get involved now, like, either of them are going to be an awesome choice, really.
It still doesn't feel to me like the first generation, though, just because of the 2 decays and the fact that I've sort of had access to it in a way for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting seeing it progress. And yeah, like you say, it's amazing now. Like, the mainstream media are now having the conversations we were having on here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's quite funny how they're going through all that. Same as we did.
Well, yeah. It's time for the rest of the world to learn what IPDs are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did pop my head around it at Resd, actually, and they were, there was a talk going on about things we've learned developing in VR, and they were saying how they're having to apply a lot more real science to it.
Right.
And I definitely noticed one thing actually that she mentioned is you can't have things come too close to you because it freaks you out.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a little drone, if it gets too near you, you're like, oh, it's going to crash into me.
And then you jump into the booth, babe.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the only other thing I wanted to mention around all this, obviously PlayStation VR, I didn't get to try it at Res, but the more I thought about the whole like room scale thing, and I know what they're offering is not on the same level as HTC Vive, but I was thinking, I think they're going to offer something like in between, because they've got the camera there, and I think a lot of people are going to have it set up in their lounge where their PS4 is, and I think that that's just going to be like a natural thing. They've got the motion controllers as well. I don't know if they're as good as what the Vive is, but you know, they kind of had all those bits there before VR was even in the conversation. You know, they were doing those demos at E3 years ago where, you know, you can using the camera and being able to paint, you know, in 3D and stuff.
I mean, they're really cool, the Move controllers. I've got some of them here, but they're nowhere near as accurate as the Vive though. The like laser tracking versus optical camera based tracking, like it's no way near as accurate. And that's why the Vive feels like such a kind of one-to-one thing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Do you remember like the first time you used a Wii? Do you remember the first time you used a Wii? And it's like, oh cool, so like I move this, and then about a second later, a dude over there like does something that looks kind of like what I just did.
Yeah,
or like it's like, oh, that was cool. That was kind of showing you what it, sort of like a rubbish version of what it's going to be like in the future. And Vive is like the fixed version of that, where you look down and it's like, oh, I moved this hand and my hand moves in the world. Yeah, and it is one of the weirdest things I've tried, but one of the most awesome things I've tried. Those controllers they're perfect for what they're doing. They are literally perfect.
I was very impressed. This has been the Not Playing podcast in partnership with notlistening.co.uk, where you can also hear myself and Ian talk about movies and TV on the Not Watching podcast, and Adam Ash and Will talk about all manner of funny things on the Not Listening podcast. You can email us at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for this show at notlistening.co.uk, and if you're listening on iTunes, please do give us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See ya. Bye.
My friend, I'm inclined to agree, 'cause I suck. I suck